Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help. And King of Floors, your vinyl, laminate, and engineered flooring superstore.
Just ahead of Jeff Paterson, it's Friday. All today's guests brought to you by Langley Chrysler. They have the vehicle for your next summer adventure. Whether you need a Jeep for the beach or a Ram for the fam, you can save up to $12,000 online or on land at langleychrysler.com as we bring in Canucks reporter, NHL reporter Jeff Paterson, Friday and Wednesday regular. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, guys. A beautiful day. I'm just standing here outside of Rogers Arena crushing a couple of beers, so life's good.
Oh, perfect. Say hi to Milan.
Yeah, I haven't seen him anywhere here today, but I don't know when that was filmed, but it seemed like a good idea, so I thought I'd do it too.
You say you're crushing a couple of beers. Any waffles as well, by any chance, Jeff?
No waffles, no.
Yeah, we brought up waffles because of this NFL story Ryan was talking about. One of our listeners wanted you to talk about chicken and waffles in Vegas. Have I got that right?
Yeah, there's a place called Bruxy, and Botch introduced me to it on, I think, our first get down there when the Canucks first ever visit to Vegas. And it's a chicken and waffle place right around the corner from T-Mobile. And he was talking it up. He had been there before. Said, we got to go. So he took me, and it was spectacular. Like, I'd never really thought about a chicken and waffle place, but food was terrific. And so after his passing, that first year, the Canucks didn't go to Vegas until late in the season. And so I had made a pledge that, the first time I got back there, that sort of a tribute, just to take me back to one of the great memories that we had on the road. And so I went, and there was this massive lineup, and I waited in line and got my food, and I sat there, and I just broke down in tears, just bawling in the place, and people must have wondered what was going on. But no, I mean, I hope I get back there again soon, and absolutely would recommend. One thing I had said to people on Twitter was, if you get to Vegas, you got to go to Bruxy, take a picture and send it along. Donnie, incredible, the number of people that sort of took me up on that offer, and every picture that they sent sort of brought a smile on my face just because of what it represented and what it meant to me, and I hope they got a great meal out of it, and if it was good enough for Botch, it was good enough for a lot of people, obviously. So Bruxy is the name. I don't even know. I haven't been to Vegas been a couple of years since I've been anywhere, and I assume it's still there. It was right around the corner, sort of attached to New York, and right around the corner from T-Mobile Arena.
I'm sure our listeners and viewers will check it out, and so will Rick and I and Ryan. Hey, tough left turn here. We'll take it. Do the Canucks? We talked about this yesterday. Do the Canucks need to bring back Tavis Hamonic with Quinn Hughes in mind?
I don't know if it's so much with Quinn Hughes in mind. I've got time for the discussion about bringing Tavis Hamonic back. What I kind of worry about for the Canucks is bringing both Alex Edler and Tavis Hamonic back, because if you do that, you're essentially returning the same defense that wasn't good enough. And they know it. I think the hockey world knows it. They've got to find a way to improve. And, part of the problem when we're talking about Tavis Hamonic is we're still talking about him playing higher in the lineup than he probably should. Like, I look at Tampa, and I see that third pairing of Sergachev and Savard. Like, come on. But that's why Tampa's the defending Stanley Cup champs and making a pretty good push to back it up this year. I mean, they're stacked. They're stacked at every position. And people can talk about the way they manipulated the salary cap. Bottom line is they are here, and they're 2 wins away from a return trip to the Stanley Cup final. And it just shows, how much depth they've got when you have players like Mikhail Sergachev and David Savard on your third pair. Even just look around the remaining teams, like the Islanders, Andy Green and, Noah Dobson on their third pair. You've got in Vegas, Zach Whitecloud. Like, nobody talks about him. Man, has he developed into a nice player.
Very nice.
As a third pairing guy, free agent out of college. And so, if I knew that the Canucks were looking at Tavis Hamonic as a third pairing guy on the right side, I'd say, yeah, like, I've got lots of time for that conversation. Problem is, there is such a lack of depth on this hockey club, particularly on the right side, that right now, if you're resigning him, he's probably playing higher in the lineup than he ought to at this stage of his career. He's going to turn 31 here in August. I thought he was good after he came back from the rib injury. He struggled right out of the gate, as you can imagine, for any guy that basically had been out of hockey for a year and didn't get a training camp and, got plugged into the lineup on opening night with barely any skates with his new team. And so it was a bit of a challenge for him, and then he got hurt early. When he came back from the rib injury, it seemed like he settled down. He sort of settled into his role. Then COVID hit, and obviously it's hard to judge anybody's performance over those final 19 games just because of what the Canucks were up against. But, I think he's going to be looking for some term. Like, he took the bargain basement deal because he wanted to be here, sort of a last-minute signing, but the Canucks aren't getting him for another, 1 year, 1.25. He's going to want some term, and I just don't know if the Canucks are in the position to go any kind of, more than 2 years at this stage of his career. That would be some red flags for me if they're thinking longer than 2 years with Tavis Hamonic. But, without knowing what the dollar figure is, I just know that I'm sure he and his camp think that he's due a raise and more of market value than the contract that he had for this past season.
Jeff, you brought up the third pair in Tampa Bay. I want to talk about the third pair in Vancouver. I mean, Ole Ulevy at some point, Jeff, has got to become an everyday NHL defenseman. He's got to get the trust of the coach, and he's got to get to the point where he's in the lineup every single game and not a healthy scratch anymore. Rathbone, can you get him in this year? Chatfield is a UFA, but a depth guy, obviously a 6'7" guy. Jeff, talk about their third pair. It's got to be better to the point where they're in there every night.
Sure, but their first and second pairs have to be better as well. There are issues above the third pair, but you're right. There's no question that the depth on defense is an issue. And this is where I come back to the idea of Alex Edler. And look, we've had this conversation, Rick. I mean, we know what Travis Green thinks. And he was on your show, I think it was last Friday, in fact.
He loves him. He loves Edler. He loves him.
Right. So, again, I could take Alex Edler if I knew that they were prepared to reduce his role to just a third pairing guy. And then, you have this veteran presence. I don't know who's playing the right side with him, but I've got time for that conversation. I just worry that the idea is you're going to bring Edler back, you're going to bring Hamonic back. All of a sudden, now you've basically got the same group from last season. They have to get better. So I think Rathbone showed remarkably well. I think there's excitement inside the organization about what he's capable of. And Ole Ulevy remains a wild card, and it's such a shame for a guy that was drafted where he was and the way that, they've worked him through the system and he got his feet wet in the NHL. But, is there trust there from the coaching staff? We talk about bringing Brad Shaw in to work exclusively with Quinn Hughes. I think you have to look at Brad Shaw and think that this guy's worked with a lot of young defensemen. It's not just Quinn Hughes. I think he could certainly play a role in helping to develop Rathbone, but maybe Ole Ulevy, maybe Brad Shaw is the guy that can take a look at Ole Ulevy, watch some games on film, see what he sees, and get to work. We've talked about him being this defenseman whisperer. Wouldn't it be something if Brad Shaw was able to unlock a little bit more? But guys, I think we've seen enough already in a short span that there are mobility issues.
Yes.
With Ole Ulevy. This league's not getting any slower, and that's the biggest danger to me is, what ultimately is he? What's the ceiling for this guy? What's his role and what's his fit? But ultimately, you got to be able to skate and keep up in today's NHL, and I'm just not sure that Ulevy can do that given the long list of injuries that he's already suffered at a relatively young age.
And if you're Travis Green and you're talking Ole Ulevy this summer or in your exit media, you're also telling Ole to get stronger, to put on some more weight. There's some big boys out there, and if you're going to lose puck battles, Jeff, I mean, but he's got all the capabilities to come back and be that everyday NHL defenseman. They just continue to wait on him. Mm-hmm. The other one for you is, Jeff, the depth you talked about on defense, but up front we talked about yesterday Tyler Gravac. They possibly want him back. What did you think of Gravac last year when he got some time at the end?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a little bit of Tyler Gravac 2 years in a row now. He got called up the previous season and actually got power play time and scored a couple of goals. I think both the goals that he scored were with the man advantage. He gives you everything he can. He's a big body, another guy that, mobility isn't his strong suit, but I think he works hard enough that he's able to keep up at the very least, and I think the Canucks liked and appreciated the work ethic that he brought. Would I have any issue with Tyler Gravac being brought back? I don't see him necessarily as an everyday NHLer. I mean, he never has been throughout his career. He's bounced around a bunch of different organizations, but he's got a great attitude. He's appreciative of every day that he gets in the National Hockey League with your farm team out in Abbotsford. If he's a guy that shuttles in and out, if he's the first call-up, if he's going to play a significant role for the minor league team, but be ready to go, then, I think that's kind of the role that I would see for Tyler Gravac. I don't see him slotting in as an everyday guy because, he's not going to get the power play opportunity. I know that he has seen a little bit, but I don't see him. If this team's going to improve and get better, I don't see a role for Tyler Gravac on your second power play unit. Doesn't kill penalties, so ultimately, what does he do? What does he bring aside from being a big body who is competitive? I think organizational depth, Rick, I'd have no problem with a guy like that. And I do think that, we're talking, and the Canucks, obviously, their focus is filling out a roster at the NHL level. But when we've already seen Lukas Jasek leave for Finland, they're going to lose somebody to Seattle in expansion here. They're going to need some bodies to play out in Abbotsford this year. They don't have a ton of organizational depth. So, absolutely, I'd be happy to pencil in a guy like Tyler Gravac back into this organization.
Jeff, you have to, before you go, you have to answer the poll question.
Which is?
Which member of Donnie and Dolly would you want to golf with?
I'll take the easy way out and say any of them because I haven't played enough golf this year, and I don't get the invite. The phone doesn't ring except on Wednesdays and Fridays for some reason.
Because you live out North Van. We're all by the U.S. border. You're in North Van. That's why.
I live out in North Van. You make it sound like it's at the outer reaches of the planet.
But it's nowhere near where we golf.
I don't live near the border. You do.
I'm not talking about you. I know what he's talking
about. Whoever Jeff golfs with, he'd clean the floor with him. He's a great golfer.
Oh, he's a great golfer. I know that.
Bruxy in Vegas.
And Rick, I do have a car. I'm mobile, actually. I can get around.
Yeah. I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, Bruxy in Vegas. We got that, Jeff?
Yeah, let's do a road trip to Vegas, and I'll show you the ropes. Well, actually, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
Dolly knows the ropes in Vegas. I'm not sure.
I'm not going to Vegas. I'm not going to Vegas ever again. Yeah. I'm done. Certain
night spots. Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Happy Father's Day to you guys and to all the viewers and listeners out there.
You bet. Thanks, Jeff.